She didn't argue. She didn't cry. She didn't even raise her voice. She just unplugged the router, took her charger, and left. They didn't notice the silence until the fridge went warm. The dishes were still in the sink when I left. Not out of spite, I had washed mine. But the crusted casserole pan from last week, that wasn't mine. The empty wine bottles, also not mine. The chore wheel had stopped spinning sometime between February and someone's promotion party. The kitchen reeked of entitlement masked as chaos, and I was done pretending that shared responsibility meant I paid and they partied. It started with a rent increase, not from the landlord, but from inside the house. "Since you make the most, it's only fair," Amelia had said, with that condescending HR smile that made everything sound like a diversity training module. Tyler nodded, sipping my oat milk like it was communal property. "I mean, it's still less than what you'd pay living alone, right?" he added, weaponizing logic as if fairness had a spreadsheet. I didn't argue. I just looked at the framed rent policy taped crookedly to the fridge, typed up by Amelia, signed by no one, and said, "Got it." The silence that followed wasn't victory. It was a ledger being closed. 2 days later, the utility bill came. High as always. I paid it. As always, it was linked to my card. As always, Tyler's streaming setup, Amelia's endless Zoom yoga sessions, and the AC that ran even when no one was home. It all came through me. They never asked who paid. The lights just worked. The Wi-Fi just worked. I just worked. And yet now, suddenly, they wanted equity, equal rent, equal burdens. They forgot equity starts with equal effort. That night, I opened a Google Doc titled Exit Plan. By morning, I had boxes. By the weekend, I had a lease in my name, peace in my chest, and no need to tell anyone where I'd gone. I left a sticky note on the fridge. Auto pay canceled. Best of luck. I didn't expect them to read it, but I knew they'd feel it. They thought I'd just been quiet. They had no idea how loud a silence can echo when the lights go out. Amelia noticed first, or maybe she just complained first. It was 6:12 a.m. on a Monday when the group chat lit up with her frantic messages. "Is anyone else's Wi-Fi down? I have a client call at 7. Tyler, can you check the router?" Tyler didn't respond. He never did before noon unless it was brunch-related or a crypto emergency. I watched the chaos unfold from my new studio apartment, sipping coffee that didn't disappear overnight, and listening to a playlist that wasn't hijacked by Tyler's Bluetooth speaker. They hadn't noticed my absence right away. The room was still half-furnished when I left. Intentionally. I packed in silence methodically. The kettle? Mine. The surge protector everyone used? Also mine. The auto payments? All mine. But silence is never truly silent. It has weight. And when you remove a stabilizing force from a house of cards, the collapse is quiet. Until it isn't. On Tuesday, the electric company emailed me, not them. Final notice. "Your payment method has been declined," it read. Of course it had. I'd removed my card 2 days ago. I forwarded it to Amelia, Tyler, and their precious house email alias, homiesoakviewhouse.com, and added one line. "No longer my responsibility. Please update billing." They didn't respond. Thursday, I got a voicemail. A voice I didn't recognize, but one that dripped with urgency. "This is Sharon from Pacific Utilities. We've received a request for account holder verification. Looks like the payment method was disabled. Is Ms. Rivera available?" Ms. Rivera was not. Ms. Rivera had moved on. That weekend, I passed by the house out of morbid curiosity. No lights in the windows, no music, no clinking of glasses or smell of overpriced candles. Just a handwritten note taped to the front door in Amelia's loopy cursive. "Working with the bank to resolve a billing issue. Please don't shut off gas." But the power was already gone, and with it, the illusion. They thought they had clipped my wings, but I was the one keeping the plane in the air. Sometimes, walking away is the loudest thing you can do. Share your own silent exit, or how you knew it was time to leave. Tyler tried to play it cool. The day after the blackout, he posted an Instagram story from a cafe 2 blocks away. Latte art, fake smile, captioned, "Working remote like a boss, jar Wi-Fi warrior." But the filter couldn't hide the oily hair. The stress shimmered beneath the ring light. He hadn't shaved. His captions were jittery. That house was cold, dark, and full of resentment. And now, thanks to his oversharing, everyone knew. The next call didn't go to me. It went to the bank. Apparently, after several failed attempts to reinstate autopay, they'd called to verify the original cardholder. They weren't expecting what they heard. The payment method was linked to a card under Rivera. The card has been canceled. No alternative account has been authorized. That was it. No apology, no extension, just the quiet authority of a system clicking shut. By Friday, Amelia's tone had shifted. Gone were the all-caps messages. Now it was lowercase desperation. Hey, just wondering if you still have access to the utility account. No pressure or anything. Just, we're kind of stuck. I didn't answer, but I read it. Twice. And I remembered the way she'd said, like everyone else, when she demanded equal rent, as if I hadn't been carrying the weight of 3 people and a 3-bedroom illusion. That weekend, the fridge began to leak. With no power, it defrosted slowly. The puddle spread, creeping under the cabinets like a secret unraveling. The vegan cheese curdled, the artisanal yogurt went sour. Tyler's frozen meal prep, 12 identical Tupperware containers labeled bulk gains, turned into a bacteria bomb. And still, no one dared reach out directly. They posted passive-aggressive memes. They left vague tweets about fake friends and leeching roommates. But there was no name to blame, because they knew. Everyone in that house knew who had been the adult, who had kept the ship afloat. Now they were adrift, in the dark. With nothing but candlelight and excuses, the eviction notice wasn't taped to the door. It was slipped under it, quietly, like shame in an envelope. I saw the photo on Tyler's story before they even read it. A blurry shot of paper on hardwood, captioned, "Lamau, y'all ever get surprise mail?" There was no Lamau in his voice when I later heard the voicemail he accidentally left on the old house thread. Just the sound of Amelia sobbing in the background and Tyler whispering, "We can't even prove who was supposed to pay. It was all on her card." The auto-pay trail was digital. But their accountability, that dissolved like sugar in cold tea. I hadn't realized how entirely invisible my labor had been until it disappeared, until the smart home stopped being so smart, until Amelia had to explain to the landlord that she didn't know the login to the utility portal because she'd never once opened it. The thermostat was frozen on 62. The microwave blinked 12-hour eternally, and the only sound left in the house was blame bouncing off bare walls. They tried to call me. First Amelia, then Tyler, then Amelia again. The calls went to voicemail. Then came the guilt grenades. I thought we were friends. You could have just talked to us. You really didn't have to go nuclear. Funny. When I had asked just once for them to Venmo me before the 5th, Amelia had ghosted. When I'd mentioned switching the payment method out of my name, Tyler had said, "Oh, that sounds complicated." They didn't want responsibility. They wanted a backbone they could lean on until it broke. And now that it was gone, they were finally forced to see the reflection they'd been ignoring. Not roommates, not partners, just squatters in a comfort someone else had built. The landlord showed up in person, not with fury, but with confusion. He knocked, holding a clipboard and a faded lease agreement. His tone wasn't angry. It was that particular kind of corporate polite you use when you're trying not to escalate a problem that's already on fire. "So, who's the primary tenant now?" he asked. Amelia blinked. Tyler scratched his neck. The silence between them was almost impressive. We're all on the lease," Amelia said too quickly. But they weren't. The folder I kept, meticulously labeled, backed up to the cloud, time-stamped, had the real story. Only I had signed. They'd just moved in, casually, over time. First as subletters, then as couch surfers turned full residents. And I'd allowed it. I'd trusted, like a fool with a credit score and a soft heart. The landlord wasn't angry. He just nodded, made a note, and said, "We'll need confirmation on who's assuming full financial responsibility before utilities can be restored." Tyler tried to ask, "Can't we just pay what's due?" The landlord didn't flinch. Without an authorized account holder, there's no one to bill. It was beautiful, in a tragic sort of way, like watching a ship slowly realize it has no captain. Meanwhile, I was in a new neighborhood. Sunlight through clean windows, neighbors who smiled, no passive-aggressive sticky notes, no smell of old incense or Tyler's protein farts. My new landlord? professional. My bills, predictable. My peace, non-negotiable. Then came the final straw. They tried to Venmo me, not for money, for access. Amelia sent $1 with a note. Can you PLS unlock the utility account just for a day? I didn't decline. I let it expire. Because silence, when wielded with precision, is louder than any scream. The outage made headlines. Well, local subreddit headlines. But in their world, that was worse. Anyone else at Oakview in 7th without power for days? Roommates fighting over bills. Wild thread. This is why you don't link your life to someone else's auto-pay LOL. Their shame was now public property. Their downfall, crowd analyzed. And what stung them most? They couldn't even defend themselves properly, because to admit the truth meant admitting who they'd leaned on, and lost. Amelia went quiet online. Her grid, once curated with filtered yoga poses and motivational quotes about alignment, froze. Tyler tried to rebrand. He posted a TikTok pretending the blackout was a minimalist detox challenge. It got ratioed by someone pointing out the eviction notice in the corner of the frame. Meanwhile, back in my calm little studio, I was sipping iced tea on a balcony that actually belonged to me. And I watched their stories like reruns of a show I used to star in, but had long since stopped auditioning for. Then came the group text resurrection. After 3 weeks of digital dust, a message from Amelia. Hey, just wanted to say I'm sorry. Things got out of hand. We should have talked. Hope you're doing okay. I stared at the screen. No punctuation, no real ownership. Just an echo of a conscience trying to soften its own fall. I didn't reply. Instead, I logged into the old utility portal one last time. Not to reactivate anything, but to archive it. I downloaded the final billing history, every payment I made, every fee I covered, every month I floated their lifestyle while they sipped and scrolled, because the time for explanations was over. Now, it was just quiet records, neat closure, and a calm heart. The moving truck pulled up to Oakview on a gray Tuesday morning. No one waved, no one helped, no goodbye brunch, just boxes stacked haphazardly on the curb, and a for rent sign swinging in the breeze like a verdict. Neighbors watched from their porches. Mrs. Gomez across the street whispered to her dog, "Told you it wouldn't last." Even the postman paused, glancing at the sagging porch like it owed him an apology. Inside, the house was a museum of passive aggression. Half-empty rooms, unclaimed decor. Fridge notes like, "If anyone touches my almond butter, I will call the police." Even the mold in the bathroom tiles looked tired. The landlord gave them 10 days. 10 days to clear out, clean up, and move on. Tyler stalled, claimed his crypto was locked in transfer. Amelia asked if she could sublet just her room until she figured things out. The answer was no, and for the first time, they understood what that word felt like. Meanwhile, I was thriving. Not in the flashy, Instagrammable way they used to flaunt, but in the subtle, nourishing kind. The kind where your emails are answered, your heat works, and your groceries stay where you left them. Where nobody steals your oat milk. Where peace isn't a concept, it's built into the lease. One afternoon, I walked past Oakview again, out of curiosity. The blinds were closed. The steps were dirty, but the mailbox was stuffed, with final notices and bank letters. One, half slid out, read, "Account locked due to unauthorized access attempts." I smiled. I knew the pattern. They were still trying to get back in, still hoping I'd left the door cracked. But I hadn't. Some exits are permanent, and when I walked away, I locked more than just the utility account. I locked up every version of myself they took for granted. The final night before their departure felt like the end of a failed reality show. No power, no Wi-Fi, just battery-powered string lights, 3 half-burnt candles, and 2 grown adults pretending this was camping and not consequence. Amelia sat cross-legged on the floor, eating peanut butter with a spoon. Tyler paced, phone flashlight flickering with 7% left. They weren't talking much anymore. Not since the fight about who let it get this far. Not since the landlord refused to refund the deposit, citing damage, unpaid utilities, and unauthorized tenants. The couch was gone. So were the chairs, the rug, and every dish with a matching set. What remained was an echo, and the feeling of being uninvited from a life they thought they owned. Across town, I was lighting a new candle in a clean apartment, the same brand Amelia used to buy, but this one smelled like freedom. My bank account was stable. My name wasn't on any crisis. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't waiting for the next emotional invoice. One email arrived that night from the utility company. Subject line: Final confirmation of disconnection. Oakview residents. I read it twice. There was no action needed, just an acknowledgement that the account was officially closed, like a ribbon on a box I never meant to unwrap. Meanwhile, Tyler posted one last story. Oakview chapter closed. New beginnings ahead. No tagged location, no details, just the hollow optimism of someone who learned the wrong lesson because they didn't grow. They collapsed, and I grew away from them. The door clicked shut behind them with no ceremony. No keys handed over, no landlord handshake. Just a vacant house, empty sockets where lights once glowed, and silence that finally belonged to itself. Amelia moved back in with her cousin. Tyler crashed on a friend's futon until his next opportunity hit. But neither of them mentioned Oakview again. Not out loud, not online, not even to each other, because to say it would be to admit it. And some people would rather rewrite the story than reread the receipts. Meanwhile, I did what I'd always done. Quietly, precisely, intentionally. I updated my address on all accounts. I checked my credit score. It had gone up. And on a small post-it by my desk, I wrote 3 words I never wanted to forget. Never again, quietly. Because silence had served me, yes. But it had also cost me, until I learned to wield it, not wear it. In the stillness of my new life, I began to breathe differently, not like someone escaping, but like someone arriving. I walked past Oakview one final time on a sunny afternoon in late spring. The sign out front had changed. Available. Serious inquiries only. The windows were open. The air was moving. The house was finally empty enough to start over. But it wouldn't be me. I had already begun. Because I was never just the roommate, I was the reason the lights stayed on, the fridge stayed full, and the quiet didn't swallow the walls. And now that I'd left, that quiet had finally spoken back. Months later, a new family moved into Oakview. Young couple, toddler, a wind chime on the porch, no string lights, no passive-aggressive notes, just laughter through open windows and shoes neatly lined by the door. They didn't know the house's history. They didn't need to. Houses don't hold grudges. People do. But I passed by one evening, groceries in hand, and noticed something odd. The mailbox still bore the faint outline of our old label. Homies Oak View House Com. The glue had outlasted the fantasy. Back home, I sorted my mail, unpacked my things, everything in its place, even me. That was the real plot twist. Not revenge, not exposure, just restoration. Of peace, of boundaries, of self-worth. That night, I lit a candle. Same scent, new meaning, and as the flame flickered gently across the page of the book I'd been meaning to finish, I realized they never really kicked me out. They just made space for me to choose better. And I did. Quietly, completely, permanently.